have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV. Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hello and welcome to TV Guidance Counselor. As you may have noticed, it is not Wednesday, it's a different day of the week, yet you're still getting a new TV Guidance Counselor episode. I am sort of, it's not a closeout, I have more episodes than the weekly schedule would allow me to release, because whenever people come through Boston, cool people, interesting people, I always try and grab them to do an episode of the show, and weirdly, we've had an unusually high number of cool people coming through Boston lately, so I've been able to get some great episodes, and I thought that I would pass the savings on to you. I don't actually think that's accurate. It's not really savings, but I have a bunch of good episodes, so I thought for a couple weeks I would do more than one episode a week. It may not be every week, it might be a couple times a month. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, my guest this week, the amazing, absolutely lovely human being, Maeve Higgins. She is an incredibly funny comedian. If you have not seen her do stand-up, I highly recommend that you do. She is from Ireland, as we discuss in this episode, but currently resides in New York City. So she came up recently to do Wesley Stace's Cabinet of Wonders, which is a great show that I've been lucky enough to be a part of in the past as well. And I was able to grab a bit of her time to record an episode. She also has a really, really cool, very entertaining, very charming cookery show called Fancy Vittles. It was on Irish television, but you can probably see it on the internet at some place. I think it was on YouTube for a while. It still may be, but definitely check that out. And this episode is a little bit shorter than usual. There were some weather issues, and Maeve kind of got in late, so I took more of her time than she should have given me, but we got a really great conversation in here, and I think you'll enjoy it. I really enjoyed speaking with her, and make sure you stay tuned to the end of the episode where I have some major announcements about the show and some fun stuff coming up. So here you go, this week's second episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Maeve Higgins.
Here we go again. TV movies made for TV. TV movies made for TV. TV movies made for TV. TV movies made for TV.
Maeve Higgins, hello.
Good day to you.
Good day to you. Thank you for doing the show.
No, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We are in the basement of the Somerville Theatre, which is very, very mysterious and exotic for people. They've never been down here.
Well, it's a beautiful space upstairs. There's lots of musicians outside.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering if they're going to start playing the tuba.
There's most musicians are tuba based in Boston, I've found. There's a huge brass contingent.
I was subletting this place for a month in New York, and my downstairs neighbour was a tubist.
Okay, is tuba the correct word? Yeah.
A tuba player. And it's such a cute, jovial instrument. And I would hear him bang, bang, bang. And I was like, I can't wait to meet that guy. I had seen him. He's like a chubby old man.
Of course.
With pink cheeks.
Yeah.
And then he was so rude to me.
Really? He was like a cocky tuba player?
He was just like a pain in the ass. He was like, you know, it's your job to shovel snow just as much as mine. And I was like, yeah, I know. I just came down here to ask you where this show snovel is.
Show snovel, yes. Yeah. Tuba will do that. I think most tuba players are bitter pricks.
He was so grumpy.
Yeah. I would, if I had a tuba player below me, I would find it would be difficult to walk in a normal manner, because I would feel like I would have
What did you say?
If there was a tuba player under my apartment.
Oh my god, okay.
Did you say, do you think I said blow me?
Yeah, I was if I had a tuba player blow me, and I was like, okay. And
I'm sure that would be interesting. Yeah. So this is the podcast. It's about musicians and their sexual proclivities. No, below me in the apartment, it would just be like bom, bom, bom. Like I would feel like I had to walk in a style of being soundtracked by a tuba.
That would be cool. Yeah, my movements did slow down a lot, and they became a lot more slapstick.
Yeah, I think
when he was practicing.
You just couldn't even help it. You wouldn't even know what was happening. So we were talking a little bit about like some American things that you got growing up and some other things that you watched, and I sort of plied you with some U.S. TV guides and some British TV guides, which again, not quite Ireland, but closer than American ones.
Yeah, and so we got British TV. So I grew up with just Irish channels. There was two Irish channels. RTE 1 and 2. And until I was about 8. And then actually I lived in Africa where there was...
Really? Where in Africa?
We just had in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
For 2 years where there was just the local, like, Zimbabwean channels, and
with
they would
local
often
Zimbabwe programming?
Like, yeah.
What did you watch?
There was a lot of South African TV on. I don't remember any American TV. I remember the Tracy Ullman show was on once when we went to a friend's house. Okay. And The Simpsons was on it. Yeah. And we were all, like, we never watched TV there. We didn't actually, like, so we didn't have a TV, it wasn't like hooked up or whatever. We used to watch videos, and we had 2 videos that we brought with us from Ireland. Right. One was the Blues Brothers, one was Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Perfect.
So giving us like really messed up messages about life.
Yes.
But TV wise, we didn't really see any TV for 2 years. Right. But then I remember when we went to my friend's house, it was like my dad's friend's house, and he like had on the TV and the Tracy Ullman show was on and The Simpsons was on. Right. And we were all just like,
what is
this? Oh my god, like we found it hilarious. Me and my brother were like looking at it like, is this even possible? Like there's like these yellow people, you know. I remember it really, really clearly, and I think that's probably because we hadn't seen anything. Right. So then, like, imagine like not seeing anything and then seeing
The Simpsons. Of all things to see. It could have been so much worse. You could have seen just some garbage and been like, "This is the best thing I've ever seen." I know. Been so far away from it.
Yeah, I know exactly. But no, I think that because I think the quality did. I don't think we would have been happy with anything. Right. Because. Also, there was like so much better stuff to do because we like
you're in Africa.
We had a pool and stuff, and nice. Also like I was much bigger reader than I was a TV kid, and I was like very pretentious about that. Like it was like an important part of my it was an important part of my dickishness as a child.
Yeah, the best of us had that. Yeah, I needed fuel for my immense dickishness.
Yeah, and that was books. Just one of the little weapons in my arsenal was to be like, I don't actually watch TV.
I don't even know what it is really. Yeah.
But like then there was stuff like when we were little kids, Home and Away started, which is an Australian soap opera, and that started. Yeah, it was like on the beach. There was like vague bikini wearing. You know, it was really like exotic, and
it was for Americans. I guess I would call it like a dramatic Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, because it was teenagers in school and stuff, and like the drama was quite muted. It was like,
absolutely,
you know, you kissed my boyfriend, but like they wouldn't even show the kiss.
Yeah,
but my mother was like, you're not allowed to watch that show.
Was your mother very conservative about that stuff?
She just was like, I think she just had a block about TV. Like she just was like, it will rot your brain.
Rot your brain, right?
You know. Now this lady has done a full. Now we have all cable and all American channels at home, right? I was back there recently. They have a TV in their bedroom. The kids have their own TV. There's another TV. There's 3 TVs in the house now. All my mother does is watch like gypsy wedding shows.
All the reality shows?
Yeah, she watches Kate with all the children. Yeah.
So she's making up for lost time, basically.
Oh, yeah. And she is like completely guiltless about it. Like she's like so happy.
Right. I spent all those years not watching, so now I can indulge.
Yeah, and also like preventing you from watching. So like we weren't allowed to watch Home and Away, so and it was all everyone talked about in school. Yeah. So I was really annoyed, but I just like turned that around and I was like, I don't care for such things. Right. But I was like, I wish I knew what was happening.
Who was dating who in here?
Yeah, who's fostered?
Did your mom watch you like the first time you were on TV?
Yeah, the first time I was on TV was in a hidden camera show. Right. Which is like, you know, one of the trashier...
But I think people don't realize that in Europe, hidden camera shows are huge. We only had like 2, but every country has like, every decade they always have a hidden camera show.
Yeah, because like they're cheap to make. Yeah. They're easy to make. Yeah. You just, like by their nature, there's a tiny crew. Yeah. And you can throw comedians into them. Yeah. And like... The one I was on, I think maybe it's a bit harder now, but when I was making it was like 2006, 2007 when I just started doing comedy, and I really think Irish people are good for hidden camera shows because Irish people really get involved.
Right.
Whereas like if you were doing a hidden camera show, say in London where I've lived or in New York where I live now,
or punch you.
well, yeah, they'll ignore you or punch you. Like they'll just. Maybe they'll be helpful briefly, but they'll also think you're crazy.
Right.
Because I would do stuff like dress as a bride and be like, can you just come in here to this church? I just need to get married to somebody. You know, stuff like this, right? And Irish people were so curious and like also so helpful.
Right. I'll help you out for a second.
You draw them in and they'd go along with it. And like that's what I loved about the show. Like
it was unique to the area. You couldn't quite do the same kind of humor and the same kind of setups if it wasn't in Ireland.
No, they tried like the same like my two like co-stars and a different production company took it over actually, but they tried to make it in England.
Right.
I think they did make one series in the end, and I was like thinking about, will I get involved, won't I? And I decided not to for kind of other reasons, like I was just doing other work stuff.
Right.
But I was also like, it's not going to be as easy in England, and it wasn't. I actually didn't see it, but like I think it wasn't as easy. I think people tend to lump in like Ireland and England together too much, but there's significant cultural differences that is a prime example of, especially London, which is not like the rest of England. But that stuff doesn't translate. I can imagine how much of a disaster that could be. Yeah, I mean, like, I would say, you know, there's huge cultural similarities. There's more similarities than there are differences. Yeah. And the main, like, then when I was about, like, 12, when we had moved back to Ireland, then I remember very clearly getting like Sky, which was like a satellite network, and getting all
Murdoch, I think owns
it. Yeah, he does. And getting all of those channels and suddenly having access to like all these UK TV.
So you went from famine to feast. Like it was just nothing for 2 years and then everything you could possibly watch.
It really was.
Did you just try to take it all in like at that point?
I think at that point because like seriously, seeing The Simpsons for whatever that was, like 10 minutes or something, was it even I don't even think it was 10 minutes. I remember me and my brother quoting it to each other like forever
really
after.
Stuck in there.
And being like, go, you know.
Well, I think that was part of like people our age too. Like we really latched onto that show generally because it was a cartoon that wasn't for children.
I felt clever watching it. I was like, I get it, and we'd watch it with my younger sisters, and they'd laugh at the baby bits, and I'd be like,
I left at the talking, not the hitting people part of it. Jokes for the adults in here.
That's so true. I did love that. And then I remember like we when I was about like 13, we saw Airplane, the movie, and then I was like, the Americans, they're the funny ones.
So you like that slapsticky kitchen sink kind of humor of that stuff?
Adored it.
Okay.
And like the UK stuff that was coming through in Ireland was like more cerebral and like, you know, like those things like Only Fools and Horses and, you know, shows like that. And I was just
I don't know if I'd call that cerebral.
No, neither would I, but like
it's not silly. It's certainly not Airplane.
No, not silly. And like, so things like, I'm trying to think like what my friends loved from the UK.
And you grew up very sort of rural, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, Only Fools and Horses is such a city show too that I imagine that would be sort of off-putting too.
Yeah, and it was like all guys.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I still have a problem with that. Like, I couldn't identify that. When I was a teenage girl watching comedy shows, I was always like, I get it, but I don't love it.
Yeah, there's no one here that's me in there.
Yeah, but I didn't know that that's what the problem was.
Right.
You know?
You couldn't put your finger on exactly why you didn't connect with it completely?
Yeah, because I was like, I can see that this is funny, and I also felt myself that I was like funny, and that was like a part of me, but I had no idea that I could ever like do comedy.
So there's no examples of that you could...
Yeah. Tracy Ullman, yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely her. And then it wasn't until I moved to the States when I was 17, actually, and worked as a babysitter. Like an Irish girl, I came over straight after school, and I...
Au paired.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a TV in my room, And
What state were you in when you moved?
in New York.
Okay.
In New York, like I was in Westchester County.
Okay.
And
Was that the first time you'd ever been to the States?
yeah, and I was like, I'm moving to New York to
Right.
start my new life.
Yeah.
And then I was like living in the suburbs,
Right.
being paid $150 a week,
Right.
which
Plus room and board.
plus room and board, which just makes you even more like trapped
You're an
in the
indentured
house.
servant at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're working at the company store.
Totally, like, and so I watched so much TV.
Right.
And like, so I remember very clearly watching Comedy Central and like just being like seeing Kathy
Gladman.
no, Kathy Griffin
Yeah.
special and a Margaret Cho special that
Yes.
was like repeated again and again. And then straight after that on the Food Network they would show like Two Fat Ladies, which
Yeah.
was the imported show from the UK.
Right.
And like I had no clue that this was like happening in my brain, which is like what I'd say to anyone who's like interested in comedy and writing. It's like you think you're doing nothing, but like everything you're taking in,
Oh, you're learning.
you're learning. And it's
Absolutely.
like fusing little things in your brain you don't
Yeah.
really know. Because then like years later, after I had started stand up and been on TV in Ireland and stuff, then I did like a comedy cooking show with
Yes.
my sister. And then it wasn't until I thought back I was like, oh yeah, that was from all those like incredibly lonely nights when I was 17,
Watching Two Fat Ladies.
watching Two Fat Ladies,
Yeah.
watching Kathy Griffin being like, I felt like she was being outrageous.
Right.
Like that special was like repeated again. I watched it so many times, and I was just like, she talked about like, you know, accidentally like getting a male escort, and
Right,
like
right.
Margaret Cho talked a lot about like working in a gay bookstore and stuff like that. Like blew my mind. I was like, these women are just being like mouthy and
Right.
cool.
I've never
and
seen anyone be like that in a public eye, especially if home and away is too risque.
Yeah.
It must have been like, wow, this is, you can say this sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And women doing stand up too, because
Right.
the only stand up I had never seen live stand up. I didn't see that until I went to watch my first open mic night when I was like
Right.
23. So the only stand up I'd seen was like Eddie Murphy Raw.
Right.
And I remember laughing and being like, he's really funny.
But that's not you. A girl in
didn't-
Ireland is very different from a black man in America doing
Yeah.
stand-up. Yeah, there's not something you can latch onto there.
No, it didn't cross my mind like, oh, maybe I could do that, or
Right.
like maybe that's for me. Like
I could be an astronaut. Like it's that far away from where your experience is.
Totally, yeah, totally. And like, you know, good for him, like more power to him, and
Right.
like that's great, but then seeing them was like, it was really
Eye-opening
really
that you
good.
could say, oh, there's a thing I can latch onto.
Yeah.
We were talking in the right over here too about My So-Called Life.
Yeah.
And so that was, we're the same age, and that was the show that was us at that age, like just tapped into the angst stuff. And
Yeah.
that was one of the first shows I remember with a very strong female lead and a teenage girl at that. So
Yeah.
I imagine that was probably one of the first things, because that probably would have been right around the time you moved back.
Yeah, it was. So it was on like maybe, I think when I was like 13 or 14 it was
Right.
on, and she was the same age as me.
Yeah.
And she was like funny and like, you know, had this huge inner life going on that
Right.
like she was actually so articulate about, and that still gets me about Americans. When now that I've moved here and I meet like kids who are able to like say what they feel.
You think that's uniquely American?
Well, it's more common here than it is in Ireland, definitely.
So Ireland's more sort of the old children should be seen and not heard kind of thing a bit? Or?
No, I think it's just that like we talking about our feelings isn't like as acceptable.
I get you.
You know, like it's literally in back home. If you say something, like I've actually prefaced things by being like, "Sorry, this is so American," but I actually feel quite anxious about this.
Right,
you know,
right.
or like, "Sorry, this is American of me now," but
Right.
I wish that you hadn't said that because that makes me
Right.
feel hurt. You know.
We're doing therapy talk. Like
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
it's not that at all. It's just healthy.
Yeah. So you're saying that Ireland is unhealthy.
Well, kind of. That's what I love about Ireland too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of indirectness. There's tons of
Right.
codes. There's like, you know.
It's very suppressed in a lot of ways in
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah,
areas, which makes sense
definitely.
that it would be shocking to see a woman talking about accidentally getting a male prostitute.
Yeah, definitely. And like also thrilling, right?
Right.
And like, you know, so impressive. And it was the same with My So-Called Life. Like I remember also like with sex stuff, like I remember there was a scene where she finally kisses Jordan Catalano,
Right.
and like I thought that was like the be all and end all.
Right.
I was like, oh my god, like I was also in love with him, and I was
Yeah.
like, he kissed her. And then she says something like, I don't even open my mouth that wide when I'm at the dentist.
Right.
Because he like goes in too hard and he like really, you know, it's
which
like,
is a font that a real person would have. It's not the sort of mythologized, like, it was beautiful.
like fireworks going off and she like feels turned on. None of that. She was like, whoa. And I was like, that really like lit up something for me, because I was like, oh, you can say, like, you can just say, even though she's realistic. Crazy about him, like, even though she had a shitty time kissing him. My first kiss was awful.
Everyone's was.
Yeah. And so, but I was like, oh, and she can just say that to him, and then they can talk about it, and then it's fine.
Okay. He doesn't get mad and storm out.
Yeah.
I remember I was obsessed when I was like 17. I was really into my so-called life before that, with being able to take any sentence and make it into my so-called life speak. And the way you do it is you take the noun, you remove it from the sentence, and you put it at the end and add whatever. So, for example, if you were going to say, we were driving here in the car, you would say, we were driving here in the car or whatever. And that makes everything sound like it was on my so-called life.
And it makes it just sound more like interesting and melancholy and
dismissive. I don't need to know the noun first off. I kind of had to search for it.
Oh my god, there was so many great lines in that show, like, and I only saw it once. I never saw it again. I remember like my cousin, who was my age, who loved it as well, she got the box set recently, and she was like, we come over and we'll get wine and we'll watch it, and then for whatever reason I never managed to do that.
You still haven't seen it again?
No, but she was like, don't. She's like,
she said it doesn't hold up?
No, not that it doesn't hold up, but just that her memories of it are different.
Right.
And I was like, I bet that would happen to me too, because like there's so much of stuff that I've like put into my own, you know, like I've put my own stuff on it, and like,
and you've clearly held on to it, because you saw it once 20 plus years ago, and you're remembering exact lines.
Yeah, I remember this other line that I still think about when I'm arguing with my mom, which is like rarely, because like we don't argue.
Right.
Which was like, she was fighting with her mother about something, and she was like, it wasn't that we were fighting, it was like the fight was having us.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's it. Like, you just articulated something that I can't and I couldn't, you know. So, I mean, I don't even know who wrote that. I should find out who wrote
her
that.
Her name was Winnie Holzman. She did a show called 30-something before that,
Oh.
which was basically my so-called life for 30-something yuppies.
Oh.
And was kind of written off as a very 80s show. And so she wanted to do something that was more what she wished was around when she was a teenage girl.
Oh my god.
And so that was the direct follow-up show.
Oh my god, I don't know, she's a genius. I'd love to know what she's doing now. Like, when I say, you know, I think Girls is like a brilliant show, and I'm so glad Lena Dunham is like alive and doing in the world when I'm at the same time as me. Like, I'm delighted about that. But sometimes I'm like, but like my so-called life, it wasn't that, it's not a massive departure. Like, there was other things that managed to, especially like in like there was some parts of it, like I remember this other scene where like Claire Danes, it was like riding her bike, and she just was I think it was like her in her mind, she said something, or she was alone on her bike, and like I think she just, it was like her, you know how you could sometimes hear what she was thinking.
It was the voiceover stuff.
The voiceover stuff, and she just said something, it was like about, oh, I'm just riding my bike and that's all I'm doing now, like I'm just being, or something like that, and it was very profound. But and I was like, oh my god, like a teenage girl's thoughts are valid.
It's captured it, even if it's about nothing, it's okay to think that. And one of my favorite things about that show as well was that it managed to capture that transitional time when you're still a kid, but you're sort of becoming a teenager, and you sort of want to be adultish, but you're also still very much a kid. So there are scenes in that where, you know, they act like they're 10 or 12, like when she's talking to Krakow and that kind of stuff, but then is also being very adult and in this adult world. And I think what a lot of shows about teenagers miss now is it's very clear that an adult is writing their words. It's a 14-year-old girl talking like a 30-year-old writer.
Oh my god, like the Gilmore Girls?
Yeah, it's too precocious and snarky, and they're just spitting out these one-liners, and that's not how kids are. They can occasionally have moments like that, but it's not all the time. And I think that was sort of unique about that show, that I managed to kind of capture that.
That's so true. There was a lot of blundering and like half thought out things, and that's
and
really
awkward
true.
moments that weren't cringe humory though. They were sort of realistically awkward that you can identify with, but not like, although I like Curb Your Enthusiasm, that's a show where you're just like, no, oh god, no, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So that must have been a revelation, and probably made you sort of get at not a mythology, but look at America as sort of a land of freedom in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, and I mean as well, the thing, sometimes I'm like, did I, on some level, move to New York as a 30-something because of Friends?
Many people probably did.
And like, definitely not on purpose. Like,
Yeah.
I was never like, but you know, we loved that show when we were
Right.
teenagers, and it was like, you know, worldwide. Like, it was like we
Oh,
all
yeah.
waited, and it was like, were they on a break or was it a break? You know, like we like cared so much.
So you'd watch it as a group with your friends and
With my family.
Okay.
I've got 6 sisters, so
Okay.
like we would like all watch Friends, and it was like
Right.
a big thing for us. And I loved it, and now I still have moments when I'm in New York and like that show wasn't even that New York.
It's very not New Yorky at all.
There was like a scene, they just show like the outside of an apartment building,
Right.
and then it was just like all
Yeah.
indoor scenes.
Yeah, coffee shop.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm in New York, but I'm like having a conversation about something, and I'm like, well, this is like Friends. Like, and then I'm like, is this something like
When will this be Friends? I keep waiting
more?
for it to be-
Yeah, like more even than Seinfeld, which I didn't actually watch. Like, and I had.
Right.
Like, because now I have like lots of comedy friends,
Right.
and people assume that I have this like
Must have loved
encyclopedic
Seinfeld.
knowledge of, you know, like Seinfeld but I don't know. I mean, it was never on telly in Ireland, and then
No.
it just I never seeked it out.
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that Seinfeld was a very small cult show in the UK and Ireland.
Yeah.
It was on like late night in England on like Fridays at like 11. Not a lot of people watched it. So it didn't really have any sort of penetration over there where people
Yeah.
like it did here.
Yeah.
And that was weird for me when I lived in England. But Friends...
Oh.
Sorry.
I'm dropping your
that's
TV
quite
guide.
all right. Those are precious. But Friends was massive, just absolutely massive. And I think most people that I've encountered from Ireland and England, their ideas of America were all formed by Friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was like probably made in LA.
It was, yeah.
was,
And it's nothing like anything I experienced in the 90s.
I remember there's like one scene in the laundrette or something like that, and then everything else was just like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a really cringy. So the Late Late Show is like the Irish like version of, you know, whatever, like
Letterman or Leno.
yeah, but it's the longest running chat show in the world, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it's been going for like over 40 years, and there's they've had like a variety of presenters of different quality
Yeah.
down through the years. And there was a particularly wooden guy who used to present it, and he interviewed Jerry Seinfeld and was like, couldn't pronounce his name.
Right.
And this is like 6 years ago or
Okay.
something, you know.
Jerry Seen?
Yeah, he said like, I think he said like Zenfield.
Right.
And it was like, is he joking? Is
Right.
he, you know, it was incredible. It was incredible. Because like, it's like, whatever, it wasn't a popular show, but
Yeah, it's
still
so
he's
culty, but you should know who he is. He's a famous person.
yeah, and he's, you know,
Terry Wogan wouldn't have done that.
no, he wouldn't have. Terry Wogan, famously though, you know, Irish man, went to the
England,
UK
yeah.
and made his living there as like a kind of silver-tongued TV host. Very good at his
Right.
job. And now Graham Norton is like,
Yes, he's the proud son of Ireland. kind of
yeah,
person. Is there a weird
he
sort of
does really
thing
well.
where people are like, "You traitor"? Like you kind
There's
of
a
have to go
funny
over there
thing
and
in
make it-
Ireland where it's never like you traitor. It's like this. The small countries often have it. Colonized countries often have
Yeah.
it, where it's like you go off and you make your name somewhere else, and then you're welcome back.
Right, bring it back here.
And then it's like, well done, like you know. But until you've made it somewhere else, it's like you
they
haven't
don't
really.
care.
Yeah.
Well,
So there's
Boston's like that, understandably.
little
Yeah.
places, right? Like kind of like places with a chip in their shoulder, I
Right.
guess.
Yes, we do have a chip on our shoulder.
So I think Irish TV is a bit like that. There's some, you know, I don't know how much of it is factual and how much is a myth, but like, you know, Father Ted, that
Yeah,
show,
Graham
which is like
Linehan and-
Irish
yeah.
writers,
Yeah.
but it was made by an English.
Right, it was Channel 4, was it?
Yeah, Channel 4, yeah. And Dermot Morgan, who was the star of that show, was like a jobbing comic in Ireland for a
Yeah.
long time and wasn't really, you know, he didn't make it,
Yeah.
basically.
And he was probably in his 50s when he did Father.
Well, no, he looks very old, but I think he was
like
younger.
30? Okay.
I think he was maybe 40 or something
Okay.
like that. But he's
Hardly.
got grey hair and he looks
Yeah.
older, and he unfortunately passed away
did.
like at the end. I think it was like just after the rap party for the third season
Right.
or something sad. But you know, I think he's a genius. Like that show is
It's very fun.
It's really funny. It's really silly. I love it, and
Much like Airplane in many times, actually, back to seeing that sort of humor.
I love it. Like, I mean, sometimes it's embarrassing because like I'm not an idiot, but like I just love silly. Like
But
there's
fun
nothing
stuff's-
as funny to me. Like at parties, I hate when people just get into like heavy conversations. I'm like,
Yeah.
please be silly. Please
party.
spit out the water when I say, like
Yeah.
when I pretend to be shocked and spit out the water. That's like my favorite thing.
Yeah, we're not having this heated like conversation, in a car.
Yeah, like a philosophical
Yeah, it's a
kind of
party.
and it's the same. I find the same with telly. Like I say shows now like Girls or whatever. I love when they go funny. Like
So you like the lighter stuff. There's not like a heavy program that you'll watch it, because I when everyone's like The Wire and Mad Men and stuff, I'm like,
Yeah.
I recognize that's probably a great show.
Yeah.
But if I sat and watched that, I would feel so depressed.
Yeah.
And I'm not always looking for escapism, but at the same time, like, I do kind of want to just relax and watch something. I don't want to feel like I'm already having nightmares about the thing that I watched.
Yeah, I mean, do you talk about what TV that I watch now, or is that
Yeah, yeah.
your?
Yeah.
So I really like things now like the Kroll Show and stuff.
Right.
They seem to be just dedicated. I don't know those
Right.
guys, but they just seem to be dedicated to being like really silly and really funny.
But really sharp-witted, and not for a show that really just eviscerates a lot of American culture right now. I feel like that show's not really snarky somehow.
Yeah,
Which is-
it's very good natured and. Like, I love that. Like, I like comedy to be humane.
Yeah, I hate hateful comedy. It's like, this isn't really comedy at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it veers into bullying or something. But so I think there's a lot of value to being silly and like being imaginative.
Right.
And I also know that it looks easier than it is.
Right.
So
Well, I always say too that like comedy's the one genre you can't do and fail and have it turn into anything else or enjoy it on another level. If you're doing drama and it's bad, it's funny. If you're doing horror and it's bad, it's funny. If you're doing comedy and it's bad, it's just bad.
Yeah.
And so in silly humor is even harder to get away with because people are instantly already sort of one step removed from the show because
Right.
you're getting surreal. Which is why I love Graham Linehan stuff, and I love Black Books and the follow-up stuff he did as well.
Yeah, and Arthur Matthews is a really good writer. Yeah. So, do you want me to look at these?
Yeah, you can flip
TV
through and
guides.
see if anything pops up for you. I mean, the first one there's from '93, and you get Doctor Who right on the cover there. Which
Okay,
is,
yeah, and that guy looks familiar to me. Who's he?
Peter Davidson from he was the Doctor, but he was also in the show about what was it? All Creatures Great and Small. British show.
Right. Like none of this. I've never seen Doctor Who. Like I'm not very. The Cosby Show, which I did love.
So you did get that in Ireland.
Yeah, we got that in Ireland, definitely. I've definitely seen the Cosby Show in Ireland when I was a kid. And loved it.
Very New York, very Brooklyn.
Yeah, so sad that he was like,
A creep. The world's biggest creep.
I know.
Was there any? What's the most Irish show that you would watch? Like a thing if someone was like, what was the best example of what you would consider Irish TV when you were growing up? What would it be?
I think it was there was like a farm show called Ear to the Ground.
Okay.
And it's a farming
It was just
show.
like tips about farming?
It was like, it's still on now.
Okay.
There's that, and then there's a magazine show called Nationwide, where they just go around the country finding interesting things that are happening.
Just tell you about them.
Yeah, they just like send reporters around, and so it's really varied. It's really funny. There's like a presenter who ties the whole thing together, who looks at different angles. Like, so he's like, here I am walking by a river in County Meath. Okay, now we're going to go to a pottery throwing festival down in Mayo. And then it like slowly pans away from him as he just looks at the river, and then they go to like a pottery.
It's a very quiet show.
Oh,
like
it
very,
is.
Yes.
Like
Lilting.
you actually think like, am I stoned? You're like, is something like has this slowed down? Like
I feel like I've been hypnotized in some
Yeah.
capacity by this show.
But it's adorable because like not that much happens in Ireland.
Yeah.
Like it's a tiny country. There's like only 4 million
Right.
people.
So
they
that's
cover.
representative
It's
of
like
it.
local telly,
Yeah.
And
on a
so they
national
do
scale.
like a pottery, and then they're like, there's a child who needs medical treatment. So like the community are putting a fundraiser together for her, and then they like show like this child with no limbs or whatever,
Right.
and then everyone like baking cakes, and then
feel-good
then
stuff.
they're like, and the technological revolution is continuing up in Dublin. And then they have like, you know, the headquarters of like Twitter are opening in Dublin. So they interview this kind of bewildered like German man who's like the boss of Twitter in Europe.
And is in Ireland. It's very, so do you ever get homesick and watch like clips of this kind of show?
Yeah, you see, I always loved it, and I used to live tweet it, and people would be like, what, how did you make that up? I'm like, I didn't make it up. I literally just said exactly what was happening on screen. And so I'm blocked from the player, but my friend sometimes sends me, not like I'm personally blocked.
No,
like,
but your IP address is not in Ireland, so you can't watch it.
Yeah, exactly. But my friend Thomas has started to send me particularly weird episodes, like,
That's
you know,
fantastic.
when they're like, the seminary was about to close down, but then they found all these men in Africa who wanted to be priests.
So you didn't have like an Irish Top of the Pops or anything, right? Or did you get the BBC one? Nothing like
that? We had the BBC one.
Really?
I can talk about Pride and Prejudice, the BBC series.
Oh yeah? Was that a big thing?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Did you read the books when you were being pretentious as a teenager?
Yes, I did. I think when did that come out? I would have been about like 16 or 17 when the BBC series of Pride and Prejudice came out with 90s-ish. Jennifer L. and Colin Firth. And my older sister loved it because she was a big Austen fan. I was more like a Bronte girl. Okay. So I was like, Austen's tame. But then so we used to mock her for watching that show.
For watching Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, and also like it was so English, you know. Like that's like its whole deal.
Yeah.
And so we would mock her, and then I saw like episode 3. It's 6 parts.
Yeah.
And you know, it was just him. Like to be like, I'm sorry to objectify him, but like Colin Firth, there's this scene where he dives into the pool at his palace. Yeah. And he dives into this outdoor pond because he's like been on a horse, and he's like hot.
As you do.
And then he looks so beautiful. And like, you know, he's not a piece of meat, he's a person, whatever.
Well, no,
but like
Colin Firth is
divine. Yeah. Divine. And so then I was like in. Like the romance of it completely like overwhelmed me, and I was like, I'm in. I want to know what happens. Oh my god, I want Lizzie to get with him so bad. And I knew this story already from the books, but it was just like a really fun watch. And
was that the first thing you watched that was an adaptation of a book that you had read?
Yeah, actually it was. And because, like, you know, I was only reading Dostoevsky.
Yeah, well, clearly. And then I'm making BBC miniseries about that.
And, like, I think since I saw it that first time on TV, then when it came out in video, we bought it. Yeah. And now it's just become this ritual that, like, me and my sisters watch Pride and Prejudice. Like more than once a year, like just when we're home, it's kind of like we have dinner, and then it's like we put on Pride and Prejudice, and it's just like on, and it's just like on all the time.
Yeah, it's just background. It's your comfort show.
Yeah, it's definitely our comfort show. And also still the ones I was telling you about when we were kids in Africa, when we only had 7 Brides and 7 Brothers and the Blues Brothers.
Both brothers.
Yeah, I know. And we're like a very close family, and like we're all each other's best friends and stuff. Those, we still watch those, you know, like, and my dad still...
You have a trinity, if you will, of things that you watch. The Blues Brothers, 7 Brides, 7 Brothers, and Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, we really do. And like now, my sister's babies have started watching 7 Brides, 7 Brothers, and like learning the dance. There's like this barn dance scene.
But not the Blues Brothers.
Not the Blues Brothers, no. But my dad says to his grandchildren, like, orange whip, you know, that John Candy line. So yeah, I mean, it's so impactful. Maybe like the less you see, because like I said, we didn't watch a lot of TV.
Yeah, so it went a long way. Like the few things you saw really were just locked in there. It wasn't all sort of washed in a sea of everything that you could possibly see.
Yeah, like now kids today, like, but they do have so much TV, and then they have like YouTube stars that they love, and they have, you know, like even Vines and stuff.
If you wanted to watch anything aside from Blues Brothers and 7 Brides, you kind of couldn't.
No.
So it's lucky that you actually liked it.
Yeah, because even if we were in friends' houses and they had the Zimbabwean channel, often the channel was like off air. Right. So there was just like this very strange music playing, and there was like a still photo saying ZANU PF, which is like the ruling political party, ZANU PF, food for the people, and there's like pictures of corn.
It's very 1984-ish sort of.
Yeah, well, it's Mugabe.
Yeah,
so
That
totally.
seemed kind of terrifying.
So that was like the TV.
That's not a fun memory of television. I would be like, I don't want to be anywhere near that. It's probably watching me.
Yeah.
So you were in one of my favorite shows from the last couple of years. You did an episode of Moon Boy.
Oh yeah, did you like that show?
I absolutely loved Moon Boy.
Yeah, so that's on Hulu here, I think.
It was on Hulu here. I got it from Region 2 DVD because I'm
great.
I love Chris O'Dowd.
Yeah.
But that show is sort of the vibe of, obviously not My So-Called Life, it's not heavy like that, but that's the closest show I've seen that sort of captures that thing.
Yeah,
or close to that thing.
They're kind of 11, I think, when it starts. Or they may be a bit younger, like they're 9 or 10 in the first series. And that's an absolutely gorgeous show with like tons of laughs.
Yeah.
And like the sisters
Pretty
in that
sweet.
are so funny. The sisters are so much. He gets it so right. And like also, that means a lot to, I guess, to Ireland, like, because it's like this lovely depiction of like, and the whole town, it's called Boyle, is the town where like Chris grew up and where the town is set in that town, and like everyone is involved, and like it's, I don't know, like it means something. I feel like it was really cool and generous of him.
It's a sweet, funny show, and it's not like the Magdalene Sisters, and it's not like this, Catholic suppression, dour kind of things that we're getting about Ireland, for years and years and years, and not far and away. Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
But it's a refreshing, sweet show, and it reminds me of like The Adventures of Pete and Pete, which was a great American show. It was very similar.
Oh, really?
And you were in the episode, I think, with Steve Coogan, right? He was like the fish man.
Yeah, Steve Coogan was like the creepy guy, and I played like a hairdresser. And I think the day I went and filmed it, it was the last day of filming. So like that's like, everyone's exhausted, but there's like this real feeling of like, we did it.
Yeah.
And it was someone's birthday, so it was like a giant chocolate cake, and everyone was there. It was just brilliant.
Yeah.
And I had like a few lines. It's like such a fun thing to do. Like I just recently recorded a bit in Amy Schumer's show, and it was like it like felt the same. There was like a really nice crew. Everyone like worked together really well. I guess they've done a lot of shows at this stage.
Right.
And like it's like the nicest, easiest job, because you just
it's like a little
learn your four lines, then you like get your hair done in a funny way, and then like there's like really nice wardrobe girls who are like, that looks beautiful on you, and then like some people are like handing you coffee and being like, you just wait there,
what do you need,
and you just like wait there, and like it's so nice compared to like the comedian's grubby job of here we are in a basement, like I need to like, oh no, this is great, but like this is comedy, my train was late, you picked me up, it's like I don't know where anything is, I have to change my clothes, but then TV, when you're not the main star,
exact opposite.
Oh my god, people treat you like a little princess,
right?
And I love that.
Yeah, well, who wouldn't? Who's like, oh, I get to be a princess again.
But what were we just talking there? Something about Moon Boy that made me think. I wanted to tell you about, like, you mentioned like The Sopranos and The Wire and stuff.
Yeah.
The biggest show in Ireland at the moment is called Love Hate, and it's like a crime drama.
Yeah.
And I think people love it because it's made in Dublin, so people like love seeing their own city back at them. And like most people in Ireland live in Dublin. Like 1.2 million of the under 4 million people live in
There's
Dublin.
7 other people who live in Ireland, not Dublin.
Yeah, like there's some counties in Ireland where like sheep outnumber people. Like actually. So everyone lives in Dublin, and this show is in Dublin, and it's about like the gang warfare and which is really sad, but is a real
engaging though.
Yeah, and also it's like middle class people being like, so this is what's been happening, anyway.
So it's their way to slum to see like, I see how it is.
Like I saw the first series and I was pissed off with it because it was like the women were prostitutes or girlfriends who got beaten up or raped.
Former prostitutes.
So I was like, like prostitutes with heart to gold. Like it was like every cliche, and then the guys were like gangsters. I mean, it didn't exactly do any favors for men either.
Right.
But it was what it was. And it was hugely popular. But like there's such a funny story there, because in like the second series, there's undercover cops in the show, because they're like trying to find the drug smugglers, whatever. And in Ireland, the guards are called the the police are called the Gardaí,
Okay.
and that means like it's the Gardaí Síochána, the guardians of the peace.
Right.
And they get like 6 weeks off every summer, and they're allowed to do another job because they're like civil servants.
Okay, I guess this is a
And
volunteer thing. Yeah.
So no, it's not a volunteer thing. Like they're like, it's like a full-time job, but they get like 6 weeks off where they're allowed to. It's just their summer holidays.
Okay, so
And they're
is there
allowed-
no police during the summer?
No, like not everyone goes on vacation at the same
I'm just
time.
picturing them be like, we can do our crimes now. They're all on vacation.
That would be perfect. But often they work as like, I don't know, like drivers, or like, you know, they're not allowed to get security jobs, but they're allowed to get like other types of jobs.
Right, they could be a lifeguard or something.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But this one guy is like an actor, like a part-time actor. So he was on Love Hate, this crime drama,
He's a real cop.
He's an undercover cop playing an undercover cop
That's not being a good undercover cop.
in the
Although,
most popular show.
It might be so brazen that'd be like, surely no one would suspect the guy playing the undercover cop as an undercover cop.
But Ken, it made the paper, right? Because
Yeah.
also he's a very distinctive looking man. He's like tall and handsome and like has silver hair and is very distinctive.
Right.
Like, and it's like, what does he think?
He's going into a drug den and they're like, aren't you the guy? And he's like, no, that's not me. That's definitely not me. That's amazing.
And it's not like he's even like a normal on the beat
Yeah.
patrol guard. He's like an undercover
Yeah.
guard.
Yeah, they must have been like, I got a great idea. We hire a real undercover cop to play this undercover cop. And then they're like, oh shit.
And you know what? He is really good in it. Like he's very
Well, he's
authentic.
used to playing different people as an undercover police officer.
He's never actually played that role before,
Yeah,
but he's playing it
it's
now.
not now I want to see this show.
Yeah, no, it's worth watching. And then like when you read about him, and then it was like, okay, we're just going to put him on office duty. Like, you know, he knew what was happening, but he wants to act.
Right.
And I also love that idea that there's like a policeman who's like,
I'm an actor.
yeah, I love that idea.
That kind of could only happen and have it be in a sweet way and not like this asshole thinks he's all Hollywood.
Yeah.
But like that could only happen in, I think, in a small country.
Oh, totally.
Like,
Like definitely. Even the fact that like that exists, that they're allowed to go and take
Yeah.
on this extra work and stuff.
Act of being a cop. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm a comedian and sometimes I am a bus driver.
And yeah, well, like the reason I found out about that holiday thing was there's a comedy festival there every July in Dublin, and I go back, and often
Yep.
the drivers who pick you up at the airport
Are cops on break?
Yeah, because they're always like very serious guys. And then once I was like to the organizer, I was like, they're not taxi drivers, are they? And he was like, no, they're all guards. They're on their summer break.
They're on the summer break doing comedy. Well, you have to go do the show.
Yes,
but I love
Ken.
talking to you, so
Yeah,
maybe
you
we'll have to do
do.
a part 2 sometime and
Okay,
learn more
sure.
about the strangeness of Ireland.
But don't you think I need to like watch more TV?
I don't know. You seem like you worked out okay without watching it, but I'm sort of jealous that you have all this television that you've never experienced that you could kind of pick and choose through.
Yeah.
There's decades of good stuff.
I know, right? And when I become an invalid, knock on wood,
Yes.
maybe
That's the dream we all
or
have.
like incapacitated in some way,
Yeah.
then I will
Just physically.
Oh yeah, just physically, yeah. Then and I'm just like a brain floating in a jar.
Catch up.
I'll watch TV
That's when you revisit My So Called Life. That's the correct time to do it.
when I'm unable to cry.
Yes, perfect.
So nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. Thank
yeah,
you.
thanks, Ken.
Oh, baby, I see you in my TV set, yeah, baby, I see you in my TV set. I cut your head off and put it in my.
So there you go. That was Maeve Higgins. I told you she was great. I really, really enjoyed talking to her. Hopefully I'll have her on again at some point and we can get into it again. There was some stuff we were discussing in the car ride on the way over to the venue that I wish we had kind of got on mic that I'd like to talk about with her at some point in the future. Namely that in Ireland, there is a native tongue. There's Gaelic. And just like Wales in the UK, they speak Welsh. They have television stations in that language. And you might say, Ken, that's not that unusual. We have Spanish language television stations here, but it's not quite a one-to-one with Spanish language. This is sort of a native people's language. So it would be like if we had American Indian networks here, which we do not have. I don't know, I find that interesting, and we talked about that a bit, so we'll have to talk about that again at some point in the future. Again, check Maeve out if she is coming to your town. I first saw her maybe 6 years ago on one of Eugene Merman comedy festival shows, and Eugene has been very nice to me and had me on almost all of his festivals in Boston and in Brooklyn, in addition to Julie Smith and Caroline Craighead, and they were very, very nice, and I got to see Maeve perform on one of those shows and really enjoyed her act, so it was great to chat with her. And now on to the announcements. Speaking of Eugene Merman, there will be another Eugene Merman Comedy Festival here in the Boston area on the weekend of April 17th, and I will be doing a live TV Guidance Counselor podcast at the Brattle Theater in Cambridge, Mass. at 3 p.m. on Saturday, April 18th with the one and only Mr. Eugene Merman as my guest. That is going to be a great show. I am very excited about it. If you are in the area, please come down. You can go to EugeneMermanComedyFestival.com to get all the details for that show. And then the following week, I'll be doing another live TV Guidance Counselor podcast as part of the Women in Comedy Festival. Again, I know that I am not a woman. However, I am always willing to participate in the Women in Comedy Festival. I think this is maybe the 6th or 7th year, and I'm pretty sure I've done something every year. It's a great group of people that run that festival, and it's a lot of fun. I'll be doing one on Wednesday, April 22nd at Improv Boston with Mary Mack. So that should be a lot of fun as well. So come down to that and please say hello. And the third live TV Guidance Counselor podcast and our second West Coast edition will be at the Bridgetown Comedy Festival in Portland, Oregon. I was lucky enough to do this festival 2 years ago and had a ton of fun, and I'm very excited to come back and do it. I will be doing a live TV Guidance Counselor podcast as part of the festival. You can go to bridgetowncomedy.com. I am not quite prepared to tell you the name of my very special guest yet, but it is someone who I am incredibly excited to have on, who I've wanted to have on for a long, long time. If you go to the Bridgetown Comedy Festival website and look under performers, take a guess as to who it is, and you are most likely correct. So that will be very, very good. So definitely, if you are in that area, please come down and say hello. I'd love to see what the people who listen to this show look like in person. You don't have to send me pictures. That's kind of creepy. So those are all good, exciting things I'm very happy about. And also, not the podcast, but that weekend of the Eugene Merman Comedy Festival, I'll be doing 4 shows with Todd Barry around New England. So if you're a New England listener, we're doing Portland, Maine on the Thursday, we're in Providence on the Saturday, and in Connecticut on the Sunday. You can go to toddbarry.com and he has all the details up about all of those shows. So hopefully I'll see you at one of those shows or someone at one of those shows. And again, make sure you say hello, please. I'm not a violent man, and I'm rather pleasant in person. So I would like to say hello and thank you for listening. And thank you for listening now. Again, I really appreciate it, and I will hopefully do more than one episode a week, intermittent weeks in the next couple months as I continue to get great guests coming through town, which is very exciting. So we'll see you again next time on TV Guidance Counselor.
If I had a tuba player blow me, it was an important part of my dickishness as a child. Sorry, this is so American, but I actually feel quite anxious.